So I really am against, and I'm going to say this straight out, unsupervised mushroom journeys because they are so profoundly powerful.
It is important to have a sacred space be held for you. Things happen, and if you're new to psychedelics, even if you're not new to psychedelics, I don't do anything. When she's talking about doing a macro dose, very different than doing a micro dose. I wouldn't do that unsupervised. Welcome to another edition of Psychedelic Sages, where we provide intuitive insights, truth bust, and service watchdogs and guides for topics around spiritual medicines, more commonly referred to as psychedelics. Okay, we're back with another clip and some interesting tidbits. This one's more focused on psilocybin, also known as magic mushrooms. And I think there's some interesting topics that are brought forward here. Let's take a listen to this clip.
One thing growing in acceptance now, using psychedelics to treat and even cure depression. New studies are showing it's possible. Now, the Seattle City Council just passed a resolution last month offering unanimous support for decriminalizing for personal use, growing, and even gifting of things like magic mushrooms.
Yeah, and now people are sharing their experiences with taking and even regularly microdosing mushrooms. Camera 7's Dee Dee Sun spoke with people who say psychedelics have changed their lives.
32-year-old Dana Phillips is mom to 2 girls. She also microdoses psychedelic mushrooms regularly.
We powderize our mushroom and then we just put it in a little capsule. If I wake up feeling kind of stressed out and anxious that day, I'll just take a little microdose.
So a lot of people would be surprised to hear a mom is microdosing on mushrooms.
Yes, yeah, oh, definitely. And that's part of the reason why I haven't really shared my story either.
The 60s counterculture movement gave psychedelics a bad rap. Mushrooms and LSD were labeled as dangerous party drugs that could melt your mind. Now all of that is changing. Dana takes mushrooms therapeutically. She's been struggling with depression for the past decade.
It is your darkness.
And after the birth of her first child, Beverly, her depression worsened.
So I actually got to a point where I was having really, really hard thoughts about not really wanting to exist.
She says while therapy helped,
it just never really went away.
Okay, so a brave soul she is, a mother of 2, going on the news and talking about microdosing mushrooms. I'm really proud of her for even bringing the topic forward because I think it's something that, a lot of people want to have a judgment against.
Wow. I feel for this woman. I know she may be suffering. I'm not a doctor, postpartum depression. And I know we, again, want the quick fix, but again, the preparation, I feel, to even ingest the mushroom is the most important thing.
Eventually, she and her husband started researching psychedelics as an option for treating depression. A quick search and you'll find long lists of videos on YouTube, many of them recapping scientific studies, explaining how psilocybin, the active compound that makes mushrooms magic, can impact the mind.
With psilocybin treatment, we were seeing immediate reductions in depression symptoms, immediate relief that lasts for months without side effects.
Then on this past Mother's Day, Dana's husband surprised her with magic mushrooms.
And I was like really nervous. So I was like, okay.
They blitzed the mushroom, not a microdose, but what's called a mega or hero dose, into a smoothie, drank it, and waited. What were the first effects that you started noticing?
You know, when you get really big butterflies and nerves or whatever, like you kind of get that all over your body and stuff. And everyone's different.
Dana says the experience was profound and immediate.
I won't ever look at my depression in the same way ever again. And I really processed through a lot of trauma.
Interesting story. Did some research and the husband gives her some Mother's Day magic mushrooms. Any thoughts?
I'm speechless. Unsupervised. We don't know where these mushrooms were grown. She did it a solo journey without, I don't think, the proper diagnosis, let alone the preparation that's required when you do ingest this very, very powerful substance. Again, I really wish she had had a facilitator to work with her before she had the ingestion of the mushrooms, after, and then when she made the decision to actually do the microdosing. So I really am against, and I'm going to say this straight out, unsupervised mushroom journeys, because they are so profoundly powerful. And a substance it's such a wonderful medicine to be, if it can be used and contained in its proper, what's the word, scope of administration. So yeah, her husband just goes and gives her the mushrooms. I don't know about that, Beth. I don't think it's the right way to really do this.
Yeah, I think I fully agree with you. I mean, with that said, sometimes we stumble into things and we don't do them the right way, or maybe the most proper way or the most safe way. But sometimes that stumble is what we need, because sometimes getting into it a different way is too stressful, too much research. But I think your sentiment and your point is really, really important, which is you're opening yourself up to a whole different experience. And if you listen to some of the other videos where we've talked a lot about entities, which we probably won't get into on this one, but you'll hear some of our thoughts on this, because it is important to have a sacred space be held for you. Things happen. And if you're new to psychedelics, even if you're not new to psychedelics, I don't do anything. When she's talking about doing a macro dose, very different than doing a micro dose. I wouldn't do that unsupervised, not because I don't trust myself, because you're in an altered state and you want someone to hold that space. So important, and is really the sentiment that you were just bringing forward. But they're going to talk a little bit more about the psilocybin mushrooms. So let's take a listen.
If it sounds far-fetched to you, maybe a bit too magical, here's the theory on how it works. Scientists believe conditions like depression and anxiety, even things like PTSD and addiction, can create certain neurological paths in your brain. The thought patterns can become ingrained and hard to break. One idea is that psychedelics can break those patterns and allow neural networks to connect in ways people cannot achieve by themselves.
I remember telling my husband, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I just feel so alive. And he's like, you're back. Like, thank you for coming back to me.
Dana's experience treating her depression is considered illegal. But now in Seattle, City Council has unanimously passed a resolution supporting decriminalization.
The motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We were extremely excited.
Ben Circum volunteers with Decrim Nature Seattle. It's a grassroots group that's been fighting to get psychedelics decriminalized for years. He's embracing Seattle's new stance and showed Cairo 7 how he's setting up a psychedelic mushroom grow.
I wanted to show my face and let people know a little bit more about the process of growing, because it's not this big bag scary drug that I think a lot of people maybe associate with it.
He used mushroom spores, essentially the fungi's seeds, and started growing them in jars of wheat berries.
What we have is a sterilized substrate, coir.
He mixes it all up and says in about a month, psychedelic mushrooms will start to grow. Ben says these mushrooms have changed his life. He used to suffer from depression and anxiety and took an antidepressant called Celexa.
What I found was that antidepressants weren't working for me, and it just made me feel so dull to the world.
But similar to Dana's experience, a mushroom trip changed his perspective. Now, in clinical trials, the guided psychedelic experiences did not work for everyone. But in all the studies conducted by major universities, most patients showed lasting improvement, even 4 years later, one NYU study found. Dana says that's why she wanted to share her stories.
I really want people to see how much this helps. And like, it makes me emotional because I know there's so many other people in this space of feeling like they're stuck. It's just time. It's time to shed the light.
Some people are worried magic mushrooms will lead to increased DUIs like we saw with...
You know, the mushroom is such a powerful, wonderful source gift to humanity. But it usually takes 20 to 30 years to know how to even administer properly the mushrooms. I had the wonderful blessing to work with one of the mushroom grandmothers, and once you hear these women that have been entrusted with this sacred medicine, again, through generations and through source appointed initiations, it's really, really quite scary for me to see the self-administration. I've done this myself. I had a solo mushroom journey before in my life, and I was swear I would never do that again. But so I understand exactly where she's coming from. But the mushrooms require certain types of preparation. They love music. Music helps to integrate the mushroom and move it harmoniously through your body. You need to have certain types of intentions. There's a lot that goes with a mushroom journey if it's done properly. So I'm glad she had a positive experience, but I certainly wouldn't recommend that for the average person, Beth.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a very sacred opportunity to work with these medicines, and not understanding them leads you into a whole bag of tricks that you may not want to work with later on. And with that said, I think something that's a bit interesting and not necessarily always the case, but oftentimes the first journey is a very positive experience, and it leads people into a false trust and knowing that they know what they're doing when they really don't. And as you said, there's, really wise people who have worked with the mushrooms for years and years, and that's where you want to be, so that you end up in a very positive, high vibrational space and place and mindset, so that you're not having to deal with all those lessons from the lower vibrational realms.
It's true. The dosing is such an important part of this, Beth. It's really instrumental in how much you take, where the mushrooms came from, how they were grown, how they were dried, how they are stored. All these are really important. And if you're going to do it on a continuous basis, will you be getting the same supply in the same quality? And should you be taking the same quantity? So these are all things that if you want to experiment with yourself and take those risks, I wouldn't recommend it. So again, great medicine, a huge, the potential is, it's just unbelievable what the potential is, but it has to be done with in the right hands, right integration process. Again, integration is important in any psychedelic that you take. There must be aftercare.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's take a listen to the very end of this clip.
DUIs like we saw with marijuana. But when I tried to find experts who are against decriminalizing this psychedelic, I could not find strong opposition. In Seattle, Dee Sun, Cairo 7 News.
Interesting that she couldn't even find experts that were going to say that it shouldn't be decriminalized. But also, her comment about DUI, drunk driving. I mean, it's impossible to drive if you're taking a macro dose of mushrooms. Now, maybe there's something to be said for a microdose, but it's not something that you're going to be using, what you should not be using recreationally.
I don't see anything recreational about magic mushrooms, in my opinion, and from my experience. It's a very deep interaction with higher realms or lower realms that has to be respected. And it's important that you take and have the time to let the full experience play itself out. It's a long experience. It can go on for hours and hours and hours. So, if you have to rush off to try to do something else, you really should spend time resting afterwards. And driving is not even a question.
Yeah. We're just making the same sentiment of setting, right? In the right space, the right time with the right people. And yeah, your journey will be one of great importance to you, not one of chaos and confusion. So very, very different experiences that one can have. All right. Well, I think we've gone through a lot there on magic mushrooms. Any final things to add there, Steph?
It's just a great medicine. It has tons and tons of potential, but the experience can't be shortened. Source gave us the longevity of the medicine for a reason, and it has to be respected.
All right. With that said, we'll close out the show and look to see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning into this episode. If you like what you hear, please give us a thumbs up below and hit the bell and be the first to receive updates. Visit our Patreon site, Psychedelic Sages, for more in-depth information.